All right, you guys ready? So the first thing that I'm going to do is get everybody doing a little bit of oming, just to kind of get synchronized together. And I'm going to do some throat singing on top of that, which is super cool if you've never heard it before. It's neat, really just awesome thing. You can do it eyes open or eyes closed, but regardless of what you want to do, direct your attention inwards. Like, be aware of what you're feeling, like what's happening as you're listening. Try to make this, and the world always tells us not to be selfish. Make this all about you. I'm telling you. Make this all about yourself. Everything that is shared here tonight, everything we discussed, it's all about you. I'm just a messenger who's helping others remember that they too have within them the ability to transcend all limitations, all pain and suffering. Anything that has ever held you back or caused you to believe that you're limited or that you're just some person separate in space and time, that can go, because as we see what's happening in this world, there is major change. We're a species that doesn't live in harmony with nature, doesn't live in harmony with each other, and the root cause of that is because we are out of tune with our own inner nature. And so essentially what I have done through my own trials and tribulations and struggles and challenges is I was suffering so much. I was so stuck that I needed a way out. And all of the escapism, all the things that I had tried that I thought would get me out, didn't get me out. And so I was left where there was only one thing that was going to get me out, and that was essentially getting beyond myself. And the way I did it was just the same way that water erodes rock. It's kind of a slow process at first, but I just kept doing it over and over. And I didn't have like a full idea of how to do it, but I could intuitively feel it. And over time, it just started to all make sense. And so this change that we're experiencing in the world of us not being in harmony with reality is causing a lot of us to have what I'm calling the crystallization of human consciousness. And that's a fancy way of just saying that we, as the person we think we are, because we all feel separate or divided or disconnected from our heart, from all the organs in our body. Most people don't even know what their spirit is. They don't even have any idea. It's just a philosophical concept. But the reality is there's a way for us to become aware of what that spirit is. And it's not such a big deal. It's not some like weird out there kind of like esoteric thing. It's not a philosophy. It's an actual experience that we can begin to start having right away. And when we know what it is, we're then empowered with the ability to choose whether or not we're going to stay in that. And if we stay in it and we keep just being aware of it, we become aware of our awareness being aware of it, then it starts to filter through all the systems of our body. And then our body starts to get in coherence with itself, usually starting with the heart. Heart and brain get into coherence with one another, and then the rest of the organs do. And then suddenly you're not the person you believe yourself to be, you're way more than that. That person's still there, but you are this energy that is animating your being, that's causing your heart to beat, that is allowing you to have this human experience. And when you begin to be aware of what that nature is, your perception of self and reality switches over from identifying things from like a physical, materialistic perspective to energy. You literally become energy. And in that, your wholeness returns. All these different fragmented parts of your conscious, subconscious, and unconscious self begin to start coming together. And when they do that, you, as the person you believe yourself to be, becomes unified with what you really are. And that is when our individual human consciousness crystallizes. It's amazing, it's beautiful, I feel like it's enough individuals who are gonna be aware of what this is and choose to embody this state of being and exemplify it, that are going to be the ones to really change the direction that our world's in. So, it's a long introduction to kind of what we're going to cover and go into. But my name is Seth. And Judy, thank you so much for having me here tonight.
So happy to have you.
And Martha, thank you for helping me put it together and piece it up, and everybody else for joining me here tonight. So, all right. Let's start out with some ohms. Like I said, we'll do that. Do some ohms. You can shut your eyes or keep them open, but go inward. And then after that, I'm going to go into heart coherence. And we're going to get into that, and then magic will start to happen. So be ready. And after you run out with a breath, keep it going a few times, because like I said, I'm going to throat sing on top of this. The energy that you're feeling. So it's so beautiful, because as we start to really become aware of the part of ourselves that is connected to sound, then it leads us closer to the energetics that are behind the sound, the frequencies that we truly honor. And, you know, we're so used to thinking in a very linear, kind of constricted way. We've all been taught how to do that. We've been conditioned to do that, and we do it automatically. And we expect the world to do that because that's what we're most used to. But that's such a small part of what's actually happening that it can't keep going the way it is without something catastrophic happening, or without something, I don't know, that's the wrong word, without change. We've been so focused on the physical appearance of things in and around us that we have lost touch with the energy that is actually animating us. And, you know, a lot of people, I try to speak in very simple, easy to understand words, that I don't use a lot of flashy kinds of buzzwords or things like that, because what I'm trying to get everybody to be aware of is a very simple, innate truth, an innate experience. It's not a philosophy, it's not a word, there's an energy that is causing our heart to beat, right? We can all agree that your heart is beating, your lungs are breathing, your autonomic nervous system is functioning like at a level that if you, as the person you think you are, try to make sense of it, you can't. I mean, every time you think a thought, there's, I don't even know the science behind it, but the amount of neurons that are lighting up, it's traveling faster than the speed of light. This is the processes in our own physical body that's happening all the time. constantly, regardless of who we think we are. And yet, we're so focused on who we think we are, our name, our face, our life, the life we live, our car, the place we live. We're so focused on all of these things that take so much of our awareness that we don't even know the nature of our own awareness. But when you think of this in terms of, okay, I'm not who I think I am, I'm this energy that is animating my being, and you realize that, that's the first thing. It's like you get objective, you're like, okay, there's an innate intelligence that's happening in my body that's way more intelligent than I am. That's what I did. I just realized that I'm like, okay, I have like, I'm aware, I'm like average intelligence, I'm being humble here, but there's this energy in me that is way more intelligent than I am. And I couldn't, my mental mind, I couldn't deny it. It's like, it's there, it's like, okay, so what would happen if I took what intelligence I had and just kept focusing on this innate intelligence that's always going on in my body, around my body, all of it. And I just kept doing that. I kept bringing myself back to this place of what would happen. And I started feeling expansive. Started feeling that I'm not all these names, these labels, even the way we think, using the languages that we speak, the words that we do, they're great, but it's like using the intellect and using the rational mind, the way we're most accustomed to thinking and feeling, to unlock the intellect, to unlock the ways that we're most accustomed to thinking. Because without us even really knowing it, we have been born into a world that has influenced us in such a way that we have boxed our own perception in, to the degree that we're living in a mental and emotional prison of perception. And almost everybody is in it. And the planets, the way our, the leaders of our world run this planet, you can just see how this pattern repeats itself almost anywhere through most societies. And this is amazing that so many of us are coming to the realization of this and the recognition of it, because the most beautiful thing about all this is that we as the individual have the ability to change this for the entire world. And I know it sounds like, what? But really, one human being who totally awakens to the realization that they are truly this energy that is animating their being, and then begin to have the experience of what that level of high coherence actually means. You're experiencing it. You're not thinking about it. You are it. You are the nature of your awareness itself as it is animating this physical form. And suddenly, you've gotten used to doing that, and you've practiced, and you've done it enough times, then it influences your ego or your sense of self, or who you believe yourself to be, with amazing properties, virtuous properties. You become aware of aspects of yourself that you always knew or wanted to know existed, but the world never told you it did. Nobody ever taught us how beautiful we are, how great we are. Nobody ever really encouraged us to seek our own potential and recognize our own greatness. But now it's happening. And that's what I'm here to do. I am here literally to encourage each one of you to recognize something that we all feel. We know it's there, we know it's happening, but I'm urging you to become aware of it and do all you can in your power to keep bringing your mind back to it. And I'll go deeper into what all this is. I'm just kind of giving you an overview here. That's what I did. I knew that I wasn't the person that I thought I was, that my parents told me I was, and that my school and all the things were just a little part of what I actually was. I didn't know what else I was, but I knew that I was way more than that. And I refused to accept that model of influence. I refused to accept that that's all there was. And I didn't know how, but I knew there was something else going on. And it was in that knowingness. And I was able to take a quantum leap out of my normal, conditioned human perception. And when it first started happening, especially in the biggest, it's happened, it's always happening, but when it first really happened to me, it was the scariest thing I could never imagine. But it was the most therapeutic, the most beautiful, the most life-enriching, the most amazing thing that I could never even begin to imagine on my best day. And once I had broken out of the fears, the stress hormones, the things that I was really stuck in, and I began to feel what this energy is that is causing us to exist, at that point it was an easy choice to make, to go into it, because it's like, I don't like living in stress. I don't like living in fear. And a lot of that is us. Sure, the world's gonna say all kinds of things and put all kinds of scary things out there, but we react to it the way we do because we've conditioned ourselves to react to it the way that we do. And that is the perceptual prison that I'm talking about. So, heart-brain coherence is essentially the gateway into all of this. And it's great. Now science has proven what it is, how it works, and it's so simple, and it's such an easy thing to get into. And when you get into it, and you sustain it, then you remember, you know that feeling. You're like, oh my God, this is what it was like being a little kid. Before we got traumatized, before whatever happened to us. Because everybody's got something that happened that took us out of coherence, that then became what we obsessed over and identified with and made into a story that we kept telling ourselves over and over every day, all the time, to the degree that we just accept that as who we actually are, totally forgetting about the awe and the wonder that we felt as children. So, heart-brain coherence, all it essentially is when your heart is literally sending signals to your brain, and then your brain is sending signals to the rest of the organs in your body, and it's all syncopated to your heartbeat. Think of it as, so think of coherence as, let me give you an example of incoherence first. Incoherence would be, you go to a concert, and there's a bunch of drummers on the stage, and they're all just playing totally out of sync with one another, and it sounds awful. It sounds like a cacophony, it's noise. And then all of a sudden, they start playing in sync with each other. And you're like, oh yeah, okay, that sounds better, it's good. And then the people in the audience, which could represent the organs of our body, you could say, suddenly they start getting into it. And then everything is syncopated with the breath, with the heartbeat through the breath. And when you realize what this is and you create it, and it's very easy, I'll get you into it and then I'll talk more about it, but essentially all it is find a pace of breathing that is rhythmic. So Whether that is, like a 4 count inhale and a 4 count exhale, or it could be 3 counts, whatever it is, could it be longer? Find whatever that is for you that's comfortable. But the key is to do it rhythmically, like 3 counts. Exhale, 3 counts. Inhale, 3 counts. So you have to play around with it a little bit yourself. But here's the thing, smile inwardly as you do it. Okay, because you gotta feel it in your heart, like feel an elevated emotion. A lot of people don't, we've been so numb by our own thought processes, much less everything else, that we've forgotten how to feel. Even women, we were having this conversation before, like women are awakening to all this much quicker than men, because women just innately have more of a capacity to feel. They're more comfortable with it. And men are literally afraid to feel. So find that rhythmic breathing pace, that's yours, and smile. And smile, there's a great acronym for the word smile. It's start my internal love engine. And if you think about that or feel the feeling that that creates as you're breathing, remember that inward smile, like literally, like you are smiling, you're choosing to. You don't need anybody or anything externally to make you feel the way you want to feel inside yourself. You are entirely capable of choosing how you want to feel. And when you realize that, keep sustaining this. Keep the breathing going, this rhythmic breathing. Feel those elevated emotions. Because what's happening here essentially is that we're having a total reversal in what we value. Our value systems are, well, every system around us is crumbling right now, but essentially the most important thing that is crumbling is our internal value system. We're going from a place of being conditioned to place value on external things, and we're learning instead by our own choice and by influencing each other from a greater perspective, from a truly selfless, loving perspective, to become aware of these internal things, these internal states of being, and learning to value them more than external things. So the more we start to love ourselves, I will sit and I'll talk to my heart, I'll talk to my organs, like, you're my best friends, I love you guys, like, I get that intimate with my being. Because when I'm feeling really coherent and I'm really in that space, I'm aware of this greater force that is animating me and allowing me to be here, and I just keep loving it more and more and more. And as I do that, and as you guys do that, and as we help everybody else do that, we eventually come to the realization that we are the gift. We are this priceless gift to this world, most especially to this energy that is gifting us the opportunity to be here. We are a gift to that because we are an emanation of it. We're a reflection of it in the appearance of physical form. And then from there, we are a gift to this world, literally. And the things that really matter are the love that we have for this energy, the love that we have for this beautiful body that is allowing who we really are to exist here. And when we prioritize that and made that just it, that's it, that's the most important. And it takes time, it doesn't happen instantly, although it can happen very instantly. But it's more of like a progressive realization of a worthy ideal, where you realize that the things that brought you to where you are right now, you're grateful for them because they got you to where you are, but you know there's something greater. You know and you feel and you just somehow understand that you were meant for so much more than what you think you've been experiencing, but you feel like you're not experiencing it. And you don't know what that is. And I'm here to tell you that you're way closer to that than you have any idea of. And that at some point, whether you choose to practice the things that I'm going to share with you today, or find another way to access it, whether you choose to make this inward state of being a priority or not, everybody eventually confronts it. Everybody eventually comes to a place in their life where they experience it and there's no getting out of it. And that's, for most people when they die. Because as you die, you face what it is that you truly are. You become what you were before you took this form. And there's moments in the dying process where a lot of the things that we've done in life, there are thoughts, beliefs, feelings, our ambitions, our goals, our sorrows, our trauma, our pain, everything, some total accumulation of our life experience as we are passing out of this body, as this energy leaves. There's these brief moments where you become aware of it all before you actually pass on. And as you're becoming aware of it and you're feeling it, there's this voice in the back of your head that's like, oh my God, like, I could have been so much more, I could have been so much closer, I could have been such a more full expression of what I truly was, and I didn't because I was afraid. I had all these things, these thoughts, these conditions that, yeah, the world influenced me, but I ran with it. I made it my own. And when you see this stuff and you experience it, people who are dying, it's usually too late at that point. It's never too late, but it's too late for those who actually do pass over to realize all of what we all will eventually realize anyway, and make choices while we're here now in these bodies that are going to open our perception up so that we can integrate what it was that we came from and what it is that we're going to into our now, into this moment, which isn't actually in the moment because it's just a living, breathing, geometric field that is animating our being. And when we really get into these heart, brain, whole body coherent states, and we keep practicing that, we keep staying in it, eventually we start to become aware of this energy as it truly is in us, around us. It's all over. It has no constraints, it has no conditions, it is literally infinite, And the more you become aware of it, the more it starts to introduce itself to you in a way that you're ready for and in a way that you're willing to meet it at. And so in this way, you're creating a relationship to this force that you truly are, this force that is causing your heart to beat, and causing all these miraculous autonomic functions of your body to take place. And as you prioritize this relationship, this connection, the relationship keeps getting better and better. And as you deepen into this relationship and get to know yourself better, you start to feel things that go way beyond even the best feelings that we are used to having and know of having. You start tapping into these sensory-driven, feeling-oriented energies that are at all times communicating to us and through us, but that we are pretty much blunted from. We're perceptually blunted. We're not aware of it because we're so focused on who we think we are, our name, our car, all the things I said. We believe who we think we are is all that we actually are. And so that has been going on for so many generations, for so many lifetimes, that as we incarnate into this human being, this human body, we remember all these things for a second, but then we start to get acclimated to the frequency that most of the species embody, or that they're thinking and feeling and projecting and putting out into the world. And that is one that is very limited. And most people just accept that as normal. Just think that's reality. And it's very stress-driven. It's fear-driven. It's all these things that we come to accept as normal, and they're not normal. They're the furthest thing from normal. They're a tiny little speck. It's a sand of, it's that big. It's like not even the significance of a speck of sand on all the beaches, on all the oceans of this planet and every other planet that ever exists throughout our entire galaxy or universe. What we truly are is so much greater than even all of that. We have the ability to live here, now, aware of this, embodying it, and feeling the peace, the confidence, the higher virtues that trickle down into all of your human faculties. The way you think and you feel and the way you interact with others is all influenced by your connection to this energy that you truly are, that you were before you came into this form, that you will be after you leave this form, but most excitingly, that you are right now as you are in this form. And that's so exciting because it's in this form, it's in these bodies that we have the ability to integrate the potential of what all this is, and we can do it pretty quick. It's happening. It's happening for so many now. And it's going to start to really happen a lot quicker. And the things that made us afraid don't look as scary from this perspective. The people who try to enslave us or make us afraid or cast all these belief systems that we then incorporate into us and take on as if they were our belief systems, suddenly we're like, okay, you guys are focused on one little piece of sand, and suddenly this infinity, this infinite energy is coming into focus to me, through me, all these dormant energy centers of the mind and body that are in every single one of us, it's throbbing, it's waking up, it's with the beat of the heart, and the beat of the heart is that energy itself. And when your body starts getting in coherence with itself, and you make this a practice, and you stay in it, and you really prioritize it, and you commit to it, then the things that your conditions, your pain, your suffering, your trauma, all the way to just your beliefs, your patterning, they start to dissipate, because the frequency of a coherent state of being is so much greater than any of our past. And if you just keep doing it, you keep staying with it, even the most traumatic scars of our past begin to lose power over us, and they suddenly don't occupy such dominant real estate in our mind. And instead, this feeling, this universal wholeness that we truly are, is we feel like we're in a great ocean of energy, but it's so warm and soothing and supportive. And in that ocean of energy is everybody and everything that we ever needed to know about, to feel so confident in this world, to feel so self-assured that we can face whatever with confidence and strength and beauty and grace and all these things that we all know we're capable of embodying and emitting, but that nobody else does. And so we're like, oh, we're not going to do that either. But we're gonna, because we're realizing this. It's becoming the new normal, and it's actually just normal. But try to keep the breathing to that just simple, rhythmic, heart-based breathing, the smile, so you can feel it. So when all these dormant energy centers of the mind and body start to become activated by you doing this, and I'll explain a lot more of how that works after, but essentially once your body, the energy centers in and around your body that have become dormant from living in a perceptually shut off way that pretty much everybody has been living in and accepts as normal, once you activate those, once they start to wake up, and like I said before, they start throbbing, like the heartbeat, you can feel your pulse in every organ of your body. You can feel it in all your glands, you can feel it in your toe, and you can feel it everywhere. And the more you feel that, and the more you focus your attention on it, the more you amplify the energy that is already there. And that's how you build greater energy in your body. And it's amazing because this energy is actually already there. It exists into infinity. But we don't have the wiring, you could say. We don't have the type of wiring internally that can handle the amplitudes of frequencies that this energy really is, because we're used to living in a very low frequency state. But as we do these inward practices, as we get into these heart coherent states and focus on all these different parts of our body that all have glands and plexus centers, same thing in our brain, we are choosing to feel elevated, in harmony with this energy that is beating our heart. And we start to rewire all of the parts of our body that are holding on to the traumas, the pain, the experiences of the past. And we're bringing in this new frequency and we're making that a priority. And as long as we keep doing that, then all that old stuff doesn't have anywhere to live eventually. It just goes away on its own because you are choosing to generate a higher frequency inside of yourself. And the more that you bring this frequency, the more you ground it in, the more you keep developing a personal relationship with it, the higher your frequency amplitude potential becomes. And what that means is that once you're in this coherent state and you can feel it all through your body, it's in your hands and feet and legs and all the organs of your internal body, and you're just so aware that that's really more in alignment with what you are and the person you think you are, then you're changing the internal environment inside of your body to be able to capacitate greater and greater levels of frequency. And as you engage with this process and do it constantly, or you just commit to it, you're committed to it devotionally, but it's a labor of love, it's something that you love doing, it eventually rewards you with why you love doing it so much. Because these feelings that I was talking about before, that we can't really feel the way we are because we're so wired to live in a dense, fear-based perspective that we're not accessing the potential that we have access to. So we don't know what it feels like to be connected to the galaxy, the universe. We can't even imagine. But once we start to actually feel what it's like to be connected to that, then our body is working its way up to be able to handle greater and greater levels of being more aware of what those potentials are. And this is what is so beautiful and it's so amazing, because for all we know, we are literally at the cutting edge of human evolution, and it's happening right here, right now. Even as disconnected as so many of us feel, even as imprisoned as we think we are sometimes, and even as we get down on ourselves and all that, even despite all that, for all we know, we are at the razor-sharp cutting edge of human evolutionary potential. And I know that what has been happening in my own life experience with all this stuff that I've been sharing with you and what I have witnessed happening in others, I know that we are changing, we are evolving, we are becoming a more full expression of what we actually are. And this is something to celebrate. This is something to be so grateful for and to be so happy about, because the more you get into that celebratory, uplifted, elevated mood, the more this energy reflects back to you what that feels like. And the more it does that, then you're like, whoa, okay, whoa, like I feel it. But that, each time you feel it and become aware of it, it increases your faith in it. So think of it like this. The way most of us form habits is we do the same thing over and over and over again until the body can do it better than we can. And that's essentially what a habit is. And this works in almost the same exact way. But at the other end of the spectrum, where we have wired ourselves shut to thinking we're essentially a walking, talking bundle of habits, most of us. Most of them are pretty bad, not health or life-affirming habits. But when we realize that those same mechanisms that have caused us to limit ourselves are also the same mechanisms that we can engage to experience the limitless aspect of ourselves, then the experiences that we have along the journey just affirm that the internal work that we're doing is working. And it's making a difference and you're feeling it. And that increases your faith, increases your confidence, and it inspires you to keep going because you know that what you're doing inside of you is literally creating an effect in your body, in others around you, and you're in love with it. You're like literally in love with it because it's so far beyond all the death, fire, pain, destruction, fear, chaos, all the stuff that so many people are addicted to and don't even realize they're addicted to it. I mean, it's, you know, when you start tapping in and embodying this and feeling it in, and then you look at that and you're like, oh, you don't have to do that, you know? No, it's like this. Oh, it can't be any other way. I mean, people are so invested in their perception. And it's all based around this very limited sense of self, this ego-driven, this is me, this is my life, this is my world, this is my thing, these are my friends. And we spend so much time focusing on all of that we created, we hardwired a habit of egoic identification with our internal and external environment that we give more value to than what truly has value and is actually priceless, which is our relationship, our connection to this energy that is animating us. Just keep breathing, rhythmic, smiling. Listen to the sound of the breeze. Just allow your awareness to be aware of that. Always, at all times, there is the most beautiful, incomprehensible level of communication that is happening from the divine to us, through us. And for so many lifetimes, most of us just didn't hear it, we weren't aware of it. And I know so many of us are feeling so grateful to have incarnated into this time, into these bodies, into this life where we don't know how or why, or it doesn't even matter, but we know that change is manifesting and we're witnessing it. We're witnessing it in our connections with ourselves, each other, the world. And it's no great mystery, but Mother Nature is the greatest teacher. Y'all know that. And we spend a lot more time being with her, communing with her, communicating with her, than we get to learn what the next levels of those teachings are. Because it's not me, I'm not a guru, it's not some other guru, it is us as individuals. We, as the individual who we believe ourselves to be by choosing to embody these greater aspects of ourselves, we become the one that we've been waiting for. We become that Christed, you could say, that crystalline consciousness that is experiencing itself again, but in a way that is new, that is at the cutting edge of human evolution and human potential. And by choosing to be in this state and grounded into our being, we are bringing it into this world. And the things that we would judge or deem as the most terrible in this world are not what they appear to be. And a lot of people don't like hearing that, but essentially what they are is this energy trying to get our attention the way that it has been trying to get our attention for countless lifetimes when we just weren't paying attention. But now we're starting to pay attention. And as we begin to pay attention pays us back by helping us see through the veil, by helping us break through our own perceptual barriers and see beyond and into these illusory things that we have unknowingly invested so much of our priceless, precious attention into. And we're becoming conscious of that. And we're realizing that we don't have to do that anymore. And that we can instead reinvest our attention into something that we truly already are, and that will pay us back times infinity in ways that we could only begin to imagine, and in fact are encouraged to imagine, because being in a coherent state and feeling all this and using your imaginative capabilities is how you breathe new life and new potential into this world. But when enough of us realize this and embody it and get it and self-actualize it and exemplify that and be this for each other, they're going to be having a party in heavens for us. There literally are great celestial beings right now that are celebrating just the fact that we have incarnated for the umpteenth trillionth time, because they're just like, you can do it. Like, they're going to do it. They're going to make it happen. And I know, I feel it. I know them. It's like we all know them. And if we don't, then we're just coming into the parts of ourselves that remembers what all that is and why it's happening. And as we do that, we bridge the division that we harbor within our own perception of reality. We create a more holistic perception of self and reality that is literally emanating through us as a living geometric field that others, whether they're consciously aware of it or not, are affected by it in a way that is helping the world become more aware of this unified field of conscious energy that is animating all things great and small. Because it's all that there truly is. There isn't anything else. But within the container of infinity are countless individual expressions of it. And that's what makes it so beautiful, because each one of us is an expression of this unified field of this great cosmic mother and father that is beyond polarity, beyond duality. It's the best feeling I have ever felt times infinity, and it is normal where I come from. That is all that's actually going on. And as we begin to allow that to trickle down into our here and now, in this body and in this world, then we can't help but just keep doing it. Because we love it so much. And we know it loves us, and so we trust it so much. And those who seek to, or that we perceive as seeking to oppress us, or hurt us, or whatever it is, even our family members who disagree with us, we truly embody this autonomous, sovereign, holistic state of being that we generate by creating a relationship to the energy that is causing our heart to beat. And we make that our most important relationship in our life. It will reflect through every other relationship that we have with anybody and anything, no matter if it's the sweetest little baby or if it's the big bad wolf. Everything feels this and is affected by it. And the more solidified we are with this relationship within us and around us, the things that used to hurt us suddenly don't have as much power for us anymore. And I've seen grown men who are just the biggest, baddest, most just thugs, like men you would never ever want to be around. You cross the street to get away from them. I've seen them feel this and break down in tears and literally start saying, like, whatever I can do to be good, to, they're processing it in their own way and in their own words. But this energy moves mountains. And if it can create multiverses, universes, galaxies, solar systems, planets, moons, biodomes, animals, trees, plants, bacteria, human beings, if it can create and manage all of that, then it certainly can help us manage the individual details of our lives when we start to prioritize our connection with it. And it will bless us. It will heal us. It will do all the things that we seek. But it requires that we prioritize our attention and focus on it. It's like, to the degree that we focus on it is the degree that it focuses on us. Because we're not actually separate from it, but we're living in a temporarily dualistic state where we believe ourselves to be separate from it. Even if we philosophically know we're not, it's been so deeply conditioned into us throughout countless lifetimes that even if we philosophically know that we're connected, we're not feeling it. And so it requires us to start to give attention to it, and then it gives attention back. The more we do this, the more we bridge the gap, the more we dissolve the layers of dualism, of duality, of division, of polarization, of disequilibrium, the more all that stuff starts to balance itself out and sort itself out, and then suddenly we just start to get a lot clearer. And when we get a lot clearer, then we're less attached to all the things that we were so attached to before, because we know they're not real, not really there. They just seem like they're there. They're just a temporary, illusory particle trapped in the appearance of time so that we could work out some great karmic consequence that we're not even consciously aware of. in that moment. But even all that, it doesn't matter, because the more coherent you get from the inside out, the more this energy starts to manage all of the things that we couldn't ever manage or imagine managing in our normal human senses. So, just feel this for a few more moments, and then I'll close it, and then let's just talk if you guys want. I'd love to communicate with you, and if you want to ask questions or like anything that you guys want to share, I'm totally here with you and love to do that. So. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. And there was light. Yeah, if anybody wants to share anything that they felt or became aware of, or any questions, great, and if not, that's great too. Don't feel you need to.
It's so beautiful. Thank you. I just love hearing you talk about the truth of who we are, in such a beautiful way. And so many times I'm just like, yes sir, yes brother. Just so true in that our state of being, and that we are consciousness expressing itself as conscious. And I just love that. And I just really love what you were saying towards the end about the, living in this 3D state of duality, right? So we can be aware of all that we are. I am that, right? And then I exist in this, you guys who know me from our spiritual groups, this Allison avatar that's speaking, but the awareness is so much bigger and broader than that. And just hearing you describe it is so beautiful. And, and I'm aware of that, the state of duality, and we can look at the conflict that's going on in the world, or potential conflict that's coming. And I think the more that we can bring to, like you're doing, to people's awareness, how important this state of being and connecting to this source energy that you speak of, that is us, that is the oneness, right? There's so many different words to describe it. That's what we call the awakening, or the ascension, or that moving from the 3D to the 5D, right?
It's funny in the sense, like, from the vantage point, from that observational point, there's nothing but that. And so when you are perceiving reality from that perspective, and you look at the human condition, it's like, it's almost comical because you're like, wow, really?
Yeah.
So, like, we have the ability to change this so fast.
It's like that. It's a switch in the awareness. And as soon as you're aware, you untether. Right? Boom. It's just, you're free. And it's just not what this is all about, is that sense of freedom in the awareness.
And that's what, I know, I'm sure there's others doing it, it's happening, but part of like my mission is like getting together with people and sharing this, like essentially, I'm talking, I'm saying stuff, whatever, but what I'm really doing is getting into a deeply coherent state so that that frequency is, dominant. It's what's actually happening, and then that in turn, so when the world is out of balance and it's in disorder, it's because it's not synced up, it's not in coherence. And even like in the universe, like say when planets come crashing together, or like there's a black hole and on the other side of it, supernova, like there's chaos for a little while, right? It's chaos, but it's out of that chaos that order comes. And there's more of that order than there is chaos. And the more you become perceptually aware of that predominant state of being that the universe is actually in, or the multiverse, it's beyond even the universe, it's a dimensional, multi-dimensional aspect of, it's a living being. I mean, the whole thing is alive. And so the more you get out of who you think you are and integrate that into the aliveness that is everything, the more you're able to see how everything happening here is perfect. I mean, it's exactly like this. And Martha and I have talked about it, and I've talked about other people, it's almost like it's a cosmic joke in a way, and I say that very lightheartedly. Like some people will get upset, like, oh, the pain, but the more we look at the way we react to others or respond to others or connect with others, it's based on these filters that are conditioned into our human perception that, a lot of it does come from past lives and all that stuff, but it's mostly only in this life. It's really, like, that's it. And so when we realize that there's actually nothing in between us and infinity, except for this temporary human perception, I mean, I could just, I want to, laugh and cry and jump for joy, like, it's already done, We've already won. This is already, so now it's like, here we are all together, we're holding space, we're holding counsel. So, as long as enough of us realize that there's this relationship that's happening inside of us, that it's requiring us to give attention to it, making time. Instead of, it doesn't mean that we drop out of society and go out into the middle of the woods like I did. It doesn't mean, you have to resist it so much that you get out of control and crazy and start selling tons of pot and then get arrested and go to prison like I did because I didn't know what else to do with my life. You don't have to do any of those things. You can just be who you are now, but realize that you are something greater. And if you give a little bit of time every day to just breathing rhythmically, being at peace, feeling what that energy is, and just keep doing that consistently, then you start to rewire the neural circuitry of your body so that you start forming new memories and new thoughts and new ideas and new beliefs that are based upon your relationship with this internal state that allows you to further your connection to the infinite, to the beyond, to the divine. And it goes forever. And everything is possible. And, but our struggles are very valid. And I don't want to, I know I can come in here and just make it all sound like we're kings and queens living this divine thing. But the human struggle is very important. You know, the pain and suffering and everything that is happening on this world it's very necessary for where we're at right now. As atrocious as it is, as horrible as, I mean, you know, it's hard to even look at it the way that most people look at it, because it's just so aberrant, it's so painful to look at in those ways. But that's the thing, is we're not being asked to look at it in the ways that we're most used to looking at it, because we're looking at it from a fear-based perspective that feels hopeless and helpless and ultimately disconnected from it. It's asking us to look at it from a place of feeling connected within us, as we've been saying, because when you're truly connected and you're feeling that and you are that, then the way you look at these things changes, because you're changing it. You know, and just quickly, I went to prison, as I just said, for selling pot. It was something that I was passionate about when I was younger, and became less passionate about as I got older, but was just doing it anyway because I could. And I spent 3 years in prison, and I was a disaster when I got in there. You know, I was 36 years old when it happened, so I was already like later in life, and I had lost everything, my life savings. It was just like such an ego crush, you know, and I got in there as the biggest victim ever. I mean, I was blaming my friend for setting me up. I was blaming our government for putting me in jail for a plant that was on the verge of coming. Just a million excuses to place my attention outwards and blame somebody else and not take responsibility inward. But I caught myself, and I knew, I was like, okay, I know better. And then I started slowly getting into this process of examining all of my thoughts and beliefs and ideas, and this book came out of me healing myself. My instinct was like, I'm going to write out my life experience that I can remember and look for limiting patterns of thought, of belief, of, you know, whatever. And sure enough, they were there. And I was so committed to doing this, even though I didn't fully know what I was doing. I just, like, onward and outward, you know. I know I look up at the sky at night and I see infinity, so I know anything is possible. So it was that awareness that allowed me to go on, and I have experiences and breakthroughs and things that kept encouraging me to go deeper, until I eventually started getting into these coherent states that were so deep. And you know, I was going into states of being where I would almost go unconscious. In fact, I probably was. I have to be careful what I'm saying here. I was, to the onlooker, it would look like I was in an unconscious state or in a comatose state, but I was actually super conscious. I was fully conscious of everything going on in and around me and going on for 1 trillion miles beyond me. And getting into those states, it feels so good, it feels so normal, it feels so natural, and your body heals, and your trauma and your pain and all that. And it got to a point where I realized that that feeling that I was feeling by getting into these super slow brain, my brain was probably just like ultra low, just so calm down. And then I could like take these quantum leaps where I was probably reaching into like gamma range, like, and I could do all of it and interact with all of it by not even moving, just being from an internal state. And I'm in prison with men that are mostly from inner cities that are very heavily conditioned with their own belief system and their own cultural stuff. And my frequency was so powerful that I could feel it around the whole place. And I watched so many of these men who never would pick up a book about any of this stuff or anything. They were feeling it, like I said, some would break down and cry, like the more I would get into it and turn it up. But I watched so many people become aware of this part of themselves just by me being that part of myself. And realizing that the more I do this, the more I exemplify what it's like. And then others will do it. And the more others do it, the more they overcome themselves, the more they overcome their past and their fear and all those things. And you up the amplitude of your frequency to the degree that the world changes around you. People change, or they go away.
I heard something you said a few minutes ago that everything is perfect. And it made me think about how consciousness lives through these bodies and mind. And that when we do get in touch with that, everything is perfect. Whether it's a little baby or the big bad wolf, as you said, everything is perfect. Because we're seeing it.
And if we're not seeing it as perfect, then it means that there's a part of us that's resisting some part of it. And that's what I would do for a while. I'd be like, okay, and I still do it. Like I'm not perfect. I still have, that's why I said the human struggle is real, I have things, but I'm so aware of what they are and what remedies it. And it's this every single time. And, things happen and, all the drama and everything that comes up, and it's like, oh my God. But then I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I know what to do about this. And then I do it, I go into it, I'm like, oh my God, your capacity to be able to deal with trauma, drama, karma, like all that, like you get better at being this. Because this is just getting more in sync with that, which this already is,
Which we call energy consciousness, living through us.
Yeah. And it's like, so we have these glands, like our sexual glands, our plexus centers, the thalamus gland, the thyroid gland, the pineal gland, the pituitary gland. There's glands and plexus centers all through our body. And when we're in a really highly coherent state of being, and we get into this calm space that I'm talking about, when you practice, you can feel your pulse anywhere. And so I would feel it in these glands and in these plexus centers. And I realized that by feeling my pulse there, and then consciously focusing my attention on it, would create the energy that was there to grow, it would amplify it, and it would get stronger. To the degree where I was like, wow. And I would just do this. I would go through my entire body, everywhere, even in my limbs, but I would just sit. I had a lot of time on my hands, but this was like amazing beyond anything I had ever experienced, that had I known this, I would have walked away and left everything behind and just gone and done this and fully trusted that everything would be taken care of. Because it's that amazing, But we forget, because the density of this world, even when we have these experiences of wholeness and completeness and everything, we forget it, because it's part of the process. But I was going to say, the more that I focus on all these plexus centers and glands and created coherence with them together, with this feeling of like, you know, it's a very, like, it's a sexual feeling in a way, you know, I don't know what other word to use for it. It's like, it's not, but it's a very, like, it's a creative feeling. It's like, it's orgasmic, but it's not centered in any part of your body. It's like this infinite orgasmic energy that is what is allowing all of this to exist, and it's so multi-layered and complex. And even as the souls that we are, as we get closer to it, we can only integrate so far into it because it is just so magnificent and so evolved in and of itself that it's, I don't know, but I do know that the more we do this inside of ourselves, the more coherent we become, the more we have the ability to reflect this universal coherence that we are. And it comes through us. And it's, I mean, you want to cry every time that it happens because amazing things happen.
So Seth, I'm trying to clarify within my mind. So this comes from this growing or doing this breathing and using the smile, and so the smile creates the feeling of joy, love aspect. And how long do we do that for? And over time, that creates the sort of the connection with that cosmos or cosmic, or just an overwhelming deep connection.
Yeah.
How long do we do that? I mean, do we do it in a time frame during the day? Do we do it 5 times a day? What?
Here's what I do, and this took me a while to figure it out, because I've been aware of so much of this throughout my life, but I never had an active working formula that I was applying that was like, okay, because again, our human stuff comes up, but if you know how to deal with it, then you overcome it really quick and you see it for what it truly is, you know? So, one, realize that you already are this. Mm-hmm. And that's, right, so it's hard to do that sometimes because we're like, okay, but you have to find it within yourself to accept that you already are all of this, and it's happening. It's almost like that objective quantum leap that I was talking about earlier, where you don't know how or why, but you know it's there. So you just have to accept that there's a part of yourself that already knows that it's greater than everything you're used to perceiving. So that's one. Two, once you realize that, you make a commitment to doing whatever you have to do for as long as it takes until you start to experience that peace. So that's the level of commitment, it's that devotion. Okay, and that can look different for everyone, but it's like, you're like, okay, I know it's there. I'm willing to do whatever I have to do to get there because I don't know how I know, but I know that I believe and feel and have faith or something that if I commit to this internal process, something amazing is going to happen. Then third, creating this elevated state of being from within you, hence the inner smile. Because we're so used to people and things making us feel a certain way from the outside in that we've forgotten that we have the ability to generate feelings from the inside out for no reason other than we're choosing to. And so that's part of the taking our power back. When we realize that we have the ability to do this and we practice it by feeling elevated emotions, by smiling and feeling what that feels like as it ripples through our body, and doing that constantly, and then we start to tap into these dormant parts of ourselves. It just starts to happen. So, one, you know you're going to break through somehow, some way. Two, you're going to commit to it. by this devotion, by doing it. 3, you're going to practice feeling elevated states of being. And then 4, you breathe with it, rhythmically, slowly. Okay? So you're doing that, you're feeling these good things, you're committed, you're in it, you're breathing rhythmically with it. Okay, and it's incremental, there's stages that this happens in. And you have to, kind of get good at it by doing it just a little bit every day, But once you've done that, okay, so essentially you're at the point now where you're maintaining, so you know how to get into a state of heart rate coherence and you're sustaining it, for whatever amount of time. Then that is the gateway to all these other gateways that are within you. So you start to focus on each one, a little bit, bit by bit, build up this new feeling, this elevated feeling, these new thoughts that are coming with it. They start influencing the body that's holding on to the past trauma. And that past stuff starts to go away as this new thing comes in. And then, because you're committed to doing this, and then one day, it'll be just like putting dishes in the dishwasher or going for a walk out in nature, and you'll feel something that will move you, like what I did too, is I took a lot, and it's very crude, Martha's heard me say it, but I'll just say it because you guys don't care, but what I did, because when I was in prison, I'm like, okay, I'm not having sex, I'm not gonna masturbate, I'm not, what am I gonna do with this energy? And I just knew that if I was breathing that energy and moving it into the organs of my body while I was doing all these other things, then I'd be bringing that creative spark of life into places where it's not. So I would do that, I would practice it, and I'd bring it up into my heart and my stomach and my throat, like I'd bring it everywhere. And I'd into my hands and I'd feel it, and then one day I'm walking and I literally felt like I was having an orgasm in my heart. And it came as a result of doing all this work. And it came out of nowhere. And when that happened, oh my God. I was like, if it can happen in my heart, then it can happen in my brain. It can happen anywhere. And that's when I started being a real student. I started okay, let's see what this stuff can do, because holy moly, whatever that was, I want to know. And sure enough, they kept coming, and I could feel them everywhere. And once I got to the point where I could feel them in all these glands and everything in my body, then it started happening to my energy field itself. And when it would happen to my energy field, I noticed that I was literally experiencing myself as a living geometric field, hence the crystallization of consciousness. And so this goes in stages, and it goes through that, but that's what I was noticing as I was getting into these higher octaves and levels of it, and how all these systems of the body work together in coherence to create this greater expression in and around the physical body, and how this body in many ways is much like an organic technology, that when we do something similar to what I've shared here tonight, we transcend or ascend, or we are no longer imprisoned or incarcerated by the conditions and conditioning of this world. And we've been able to set ourselves free into an expression of what we actually are. And when we become that, and we are that, and we're operating and functioning at that level, we don't have to even be here anymore. We just choose to be here because we want the rest of it to be sanctified. there's so much, the illusion of discord and, you know, evil and all these things, like it seems to be so great here that we're like, okay, we have to do something about this. And so what we do about it is bringing this into it. And there's enough of us on the planet now who, when we remember that we really are this, and we start to live like that, and embody it, and do it, then all the evil that we perceive and all the things that are happening eventually won't have a chance, because it can't exist. Again, coherence operates at a frequency that is so much greater than incoherence, that things that are out of coherence or out of order or chaotic have no choice but to become syncopated or entrained by a greater coherent state. And if it can't, it goes away.
So that reminds me of the concept where you put a bunch of clocks together, they all go like that together. Is that what sort of what we're talking about?
That is coherence. That's a
Yes.
great example of it.
Mhm.
And so imagine that, but like every organ in your body, every neuron, I mean, it goes right down to the atom. I mean, from the greatest to the smallest, it all eventually has the ability to get in sync with itself. And when it does, you literally become a channel for universal energy. There's nothing you can't not do.
So you, having experienced a transcendent experience, you have the ability to sort of, we all have to do the work, but you have the ability sort of to support that in a way or something like, I'm not thinking of the word, but activate it or...
All of that, really. I mean, and again, that's why, like, I'm really clear, like, and I want people to realize, like, it's not me. Like, I'm not a guru, I'm not even a teacher, I'm not any of that. It's you. Like, you're the one that is actually perceiving this. I'm just here to activate or remind or inspire the part of you that is the same part that is this. And when you know, because this is something that we have to do individually. Nobody can do this for us. But when we realize that it's on us to do this, and we take responsibility and we do it, eventually it starts to happen. We start to wake up. We start to remember, like, why we actually came here, and why all this seems to be the way it is, and that it's actually not like this. It just seems like it. And we slowly start becoming more and more empowered from the inside out and able to do something about it. And it's this, you know, people are out there fighting and protesting and voting and all these things, still in the state of being that is a perceptual human prison. And they think they're gonna make change. And, you know, they'll change a few things for a second and everything, but it just keeps going. Because what a lot of people aren't aware of is that this has been going on so much longer than we can even fathom with our human senses. You know, with this has been going on, for all we care, this has been going on for trillions of years. And so we are part of something in this form that has been created as evolutionary habits, you could say, or generational habits that have contributed to evolutionary habits to the degree that it has created, I'm going to say, a false construct of the appearance of a reality within a greater reality that has been perpetuated on these values of, not even a value, but perpetuated on emotions of fear and survival and all these things that are not what we actually are. And it's created prison, essentially, perceptual prison. And it's been going on forever. And the way we get out of the prison is to tap into this divine nature, this aspect of ourselves, and remember that that's what we really are, and that who we really are, our identity, our human identity, is that anyway, comes from it, but we create what I call a bridge of conscious coherence between the subconscious aspects of our awareness and our conscious. You know, like that's what happened with me, essentially, is I knew that I knew so much more than I was actually aware of, but I didn't know why. I didn't know it, but I knew it was there, and I didn't know how or why, but I was like, I'm gonna figure out a way to make that known. And by putting that firm intention, making that decision with such, like, I'm doing this, I don't care what it takes, like, I'm gonna do it till the job is done. That commitment, that devotion to it, puts really strong signals out into the field of our own awareness, because we're not actually separate from any of this.
So that's why you got incarcerated, so you could do all that.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly why. And I was asking, I just, before all that, I was like, I need a timeout. If I can just, you know, I was literally saying these things. You'll read about it in the book, you'll understand, but I also knew this stuff. I knew it as a child. I disconnected from it and I reconnected to it at the age of 18 in a deeply profound way, but I was still a child. I wasn't ready to live with the integrity that was required to truly be what this wants. It's taken me this long.
But we all hit that point, right? We all hit that point where we start to do the things.
I'm a messenger, I guess, but yeah. Yeah, we do, it's
One of the things
unavoidable.
that you said that I was very, that really impacted me was you said that all the things we go through are an initiation. And I've always looked at my challenges in life that have been numerous, and I've said, this has to be for a reason. You know, ever since I was a child, meaning also similar to you, that, you know, you, even as a high schooler, you know, man, if I'm going through this, there must be a reason, you know, and so that's why I sort of related to that. Because I belonged to this spiritual path for like 25 years, and in that they would initiate you.
Yeah.
And I'd say, okay, well, what did I do to deserve this? You know, how does this relate to my life? And it was kind of like, well, you've been in for this many years, you got initiated, and da. So anyway, it just, that made so much sense when you said that it's really the life's experiences and challenges that are the initiation.
Look, our incarnation into this world is the initiation. It's the number one. Like, the fact that we're here in this, doing this, that is the greatest initiation ever. But because of the density and complexity and all the things that this false narrative, this false illusory energetic construct that so many have given so much attention to for so many countless eons, to the degree that we are born into this world and automatically start believing it to be real and true, we disavow it. We give it up. And it's through these challenges and things that happen to us, these painful things often, that it's this energy, it's like an initiation in that trying to get our attention. It's trying to get our attention. And this plays out with our health. It plays out with our relationships. It plays out with the way nations react and relate to each other. And it plays out even greater than that. And so much attention is taken away from the individual who's forgotten. and how powerful they are to affect all this. But it's time to remember. So we're here and do the work. And the work's beautiful. It's the best thing ever. And in fact, the more you do it, like I said, it starts to feel so good that you want to do it. And you get to a point where you're like, I don't want to do anything but that. But at that point, you're still able to be human. There's a balance that comes. Because it's not about not being human. It's about this balance point between the two. But it's like we have to first acclimate ourselves or steep our perceptions into the field that we are all burned from long enough so that we can return in this form to a state of wholeness that allows that balance to kind of become self-evident. And it's beautiful, it's amazing, it's been so challenging, brutally challenging for me personally, but I wouldn't change any of it. It's all been so perfect. And that's the thing, like, we want to cry victim. Believe me, I have. I've cried victim. And even now, like, there's things that come up and I feel it coming back up a little bit. I'm like, oh, there it is, you know? But as soon as I just surrender into it and trust, it takes care of it all. Because it's always doing it. And every time I overcome it, I'm able to handle the next initiation in a much greater way than I previously did. And this evolves, it builds up, it becomes tangible. It's like something you can feel it in you. It's like this, it'll bring you to tears of joy, you know, like when you really get it moving in you and you realize it starts affecting your thought process and completing everything. Everything gets completed. You're made whole from the inside out. You know, and that is what leads you to the place, you know, to these levels of it where you actually don't have to be here. You know, you actually get to a place where you consciously become aware that you don't even have to be here. You don't want. You can just remain this energy that you actually are, which will then become a greater expression of what it already is. But it's almost like you look down at all this and you realize how much it needs that. Mm-hmm. And so you choose to come back. But I know others that haven't. I know others that have not. And so and this is massive. This is like what it is. It's so big. And at the same time, it's completely all contained within our perception. It's like total like mind fuck. Like,
yes.
Without being so like.
Get it.
But I would imagine choosing to stay really shifts that, when you're holding that vibration, shifts that collective consciousness tremendously. So you know that you're tapped into the physical cellular, so it's emanating and just pumping into that collective consciousness, raising that vibration, creating those ripples, healing the earth, healing the animals, just expanding. So it makes so much sense that you would want to stay to project that, to just help the condition. I mean, even just 5 people choosing to stay at the level that you speak of must be such a powerful anchor of light to this density.
Beautifully said, well expressed, yeah. I mean, a lot of people will criticize me and calling my book Fight to Enlighten. You know, like, why would you call it a fight? It's and kind of what you just said. It's like, okay, you know, when you get to the place where you know what you really are, you know what this potential is, you witnessed it working through you, around you, in others, and you've also witnessed how quickly it can be dampened and smothered out, no matter how bright it is. You realize what we're up against here. And you're like, oh my God, you can go from being completely aware to turning it off and forgetting about it that quick. That's the layers and levels and density of all this. So to choose to remain here knowing that requires you to be, I don't want to use the word warrior, but it's like you have to, it's a fight. It is a fight, you know, and to enlighten it, but it's only won by surrendering through the heart. And that's why I wrote in the subtitle, Initiation Through the Heart is the only way to win. Like the fight is always there. Like it's constantly there, but when you love it, if you're like, all right, I'm not gonna fight. I'm not gonna fight with you. I'm gonna actually do something different. I'm gonna love this, even as hard as it is, even as challenging, you know, even as twisted and all the things that we want to ascribe meaning and judge to whatever it is that we're witnessing in the world. Even though we want to do all those things, if we can find it within ourselves to be like, okay, it isn't really all those things. It's really the thing appearing as this thing that I don't like because it's triggering all the parts of me that are still in resistance to me being a fully embodied, divine human being. You realize that's what it is, then you know that it is what is, it's been strategically placed there to teach you what you're either ready to learn or you're not ready to learn. And if you're not ready to learn, no big deal. It'll keep coming up and it'll do it forever. Until you finally get to that point where you're like, I'm ready. And what I'm aware of now is that something really beautiful is happening in that those who are choosing to make this a priority are gonna have, it's gonna be, the way will be a lot easier than it has for a lot of us. And I think because there's so many on the planet now who've gone through so much of the systems busting, breaking up so much of this dense collective thought forms that have been crusted. You know, I'm talking about the crystallization of human consciousness, and in many ways it's like this density has been crusted like a thick mud, just keeping everything trapped in and stuck. But enough of it has been broken up now so that those who choose to become aware of the nature of their own awareness will find it's much easier to do, to get into and sustain in a way where you're feeling supported and connecting to this great cosmic field that is love times infinity. It's, we call it love, but it's beyond the human comprehension of love. But it's going to ease up. It already is easing up. Even though the world looks like it's more intense, it's doing that. It's looking so brutal and radical and out of control because there's this equal, actually more powerful other side that humans just aren't consciously aware of yet because they haven't activated their energy centers to perceive this enough yet. But those of us who are, we see it and we know, like, okay. And that's why I said it's already done, like we've won. Now, like, the more lighthearted we get, the more we enjoy this, the more like we would, you know, lighten up, get the stick out of our ass, as my friend says, the quicker this will happen. Like, you know, because it's so, we can return to a state of joy and innocence like little kids pretty easily. You know?
Yes. Yes. I do it by watching my grandchildren. It really supports that. And I was watching your son the other day, you and him, it was adorable. Yeah.
He is my greatest teacher, I'll tell you
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I'm like, I did not plan on that at all.
He just
He planned on it, totally, but I'm like, I'm learning about parts of myself and that's where it is. Like, if I didn't have a son, I don't know that I would be here right now, honestly. But knowing, like, there was a point in my own soul contemplation of all this where, because when you know what you are, like, you're like, why would I want to come and do this, but all I could see was children. So many beautiful children, and I couldn't let them suffer the way that they were, and I had to do something about it. And he came with me from that place to help remind me why I did this. It's really, like, deep, powerful stuff,
Yeah.
And he's not fully conscious of it, but he's conscious enough of it so that he knows what the mission is. And it's so, like, humbling and awe-inspiring, to be aware of so many different dimensions of human perception and beyond human perception, because, I'm not me, but, like, there's awareness happening in me that is not human, you could say. It's just, but it's also not human. It's just so expanded, that it's like you can choose one to focus on, and that becomes, what you can incorporate into your physical being. And I'll do that often. I'll go to these places where there's nothing but this, like, primordial, like, oozing energy that is giving birth to galaxies, and I'll go into that and allow it to remind me why I'm here.
You're saying you do that in our inner journey?
It's very accessible to me. But it's very accessible to all of us. It's just, so, it wasn't accessible to me for quite a while. I was like I was just like,
You're bad.
so stubborn, like, just like, so defiant, so rebellious, so just like I was rebellious to all the systems, to everything. And then when that wasn't enough, like, I was rebellious to God, to this energy. And then it was like, okay, you're ready.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like, and that's when things really started changing,
So
The dark night of the soul, sorry.
Yes.
So I have a question about what's happening at, like, a cellular level when you're letting those vibrations in, and I think I have some blockages on what I think, like, that process looks like. I think of it always as, like, being a progression where our cells hold more and more light, and we're, like, building up to be able to hold that vibration, and it's a process that evolves through time. But then you talk about these men that are incarcerated that in a second respond, and their life turns. So to me, it sounds like that process, it can be instantaneous. So can you talk about, is there a process, or are we just build and not tapping into it physically?
So there's a million different ways to answer that, but the most simple way would be, yes, they're feeling the quantum effect of me just being in that state, and it's activating the parts of them that go quantum. And so that's happening, but at the same time, even though they have that, and they're there, they go right back into the density after, and they're not sustaining.
This is the inner, outer versus the inner moving out.
Exact. So I wrote a quote: becoming conscious, or becoming enlightened, or awakened, or whatever, is one step. Staying conscious is countless steps. And this is the difference. This is what separates the wheat from the chaff, to make a horrible analogy. Actually, does that even make sense? Anyway.
Perfect sense. Perfect.
But That's it. It's like, sure, you can awaken and be enlightened and become one with the universe, and then just as quickly come out of that, go back into the density of this and be a total egomaniac.
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyone needs to use the bathroom, it's right.
yeah, I definitely do. Where is it? Yeah. I drink a lot of water.